Alright guys, welcome to RC Mojo. This week we're going to fix the Clodbuster's wheel clearance issues. Quite often with aftermarket chassis, the lower links are rather wide apart, especially on the more racy chassis. Unfortunately, that means the front tyres rub the links when you try and steer. There's a number of widener kits around, but like most of the Clodbuster aftermarket, a lot of them come from the States, so they're quite expensive once you factor in the shipping and duties. These days though, we have 3D printers, so why not just make a set? So here we have the 4 spacers ready to go. They'll replace the stock plastic wheel adapters and use some extra screws for fitting. On one side we've got the 12mm hex, and on the other is a round hole for the wheel nut. Also we have a drilling template that presses over the pins in the wheel so we get all the holes in the perfect positions. If we look at the parts in 3D, you can see there's really not much to them. The trick is all the holes have to be very accurately positioned for it all to come together. And we need the template so the widener is centered perfectly on the wheel so we don't get epic wheel wobble. Both of the parts will end up on Thingiverse as STL files. The only thing you might need to do is fiddle with the inside of the hex. It's sized up so with my ANET A6 the brass hex is just a little bit tighter than a sliding fit. If your printer undersizes or over or under extrudes just a little bit, you might find the fit's not quite perfect. If we pop one of the wheels off, we can see it's not the first time these wheels have had wideners. A big hole in the middle was drilled so I could get a reamer in, then opened up enough for a nut driver. They're not really very central, but that's okay because we're going to be drilling them out with a 60mm bit using the template. On the inside you can see the remains of the glue used for the old widener, which wasn't really a widener. Back in the day, to save lots of cash, the trick was to dremel out some of the webbing in the wheel, then glue a 2.2-inch wheel inside the clods, usually the front wheels off an electric Stampede. It sort of worked, but it was always a bit wobbly, so I ripped the 2.2s out, leaving the wheels like this. Our new wideners are going to work just fine with these butchered wheels. If anything, adding the wideners is a great use of a set of wheels that are probably past their best. First then, we need to drill some holes using the template. The holes around the edge are 3mm on one side for the drill bit, and 4mm on the other side, so they're a tight fit over the pins in the wheel. You can see where my dremeling wasn't the best, and I've managed to wipe out 1 1/2 of the pins, so the template is going to make everything very simple. All we do is press it down very firmly until it's fully seated. Next we carefully run a 3mm drill bit through one of the holes. The first one is the trickiest. We need to keep the drill nice and straight so we don't pop the template out. It's a tight fit, but you still need to take some care. Now we just use an M3 screw and a nut through the hole we just drilled to attach the template a bit more securely. Drill another hole on the opposite side of the template and pop in another screw and nut. Now the template really isn't going to go anywhere, so we can lean on it quite hard and it's going to keep its position. Drill out the other 3 3mm holes and we can drill out the centre. Now ideally you want to use a nice sharp 16mm bit, preferably in a drill press with the wheel clamped. That would be a bit tricky with the tyres glued on, but not impossible. You can also use a reamer or even just a Dremel using the template as a bit of a guide. In the end though, it doesn't matter if the centre hole is a bit off, it will just look nicer if it's spot on. I'm going to cheat a bit and just clamp the 16mm bit in some grips and turn the wheel. This is a really bad way to do it, but the holes in the wheel are already 12mm or so, so there's not that much material to remove. Using the template, it's going to cut the hole right in the centre, whether it likes it or not. And there we go, that's all the drilling done. Now we just need to remove the 2 screws and the nuts, putting them to the side for the other 3 wheels. Next we have a little cleaning up to do. We need to smooth the face on the inside of the wheel, skimming the remains of the pins off with a Dremel, cleaning off any flash from the centre hole and smoothing down the plastic around the false wheel nuts on the outside face so the screw heads can sit flat. And there we go, very nice. Right then, now we need 5 M3x30 screws. A nice set of steel cap heads are best, but you'll probably be okay with stainless if you want the shiny screw heads. You'll also need 5 nuts, plain or nylock, and it's not a bad idea to have some washers around too. To fit the wideners, we pop one of the screws in through the outside with a washer under the head and thread it through a hole in the widener with the hex on the inside. Now they're not quite a sliding fit, so they might need a little bit of persuasion. The idea is we don't want any slop or play. All the fits need to be nice and snug. Keep going with the other 4 screws and you should be left with some thread poking out the inside of the widener. Now ideally you want another set of washers here, but unfortunately I seem to be running low, so I've just got the nuts clamping straight down on the plastic. Not ideal, but it'll do. As we do these ones up, we need to tighten them a little bit at a time, going side to side so the widener comes in level. If you clamp one down first, there's a good chance you're going to put enough force on the wheel to rip a hole for the screw. We need to take our time and make sure it all comes together with the least stress possible. Next we can pop the brass hex from the Tamiya wheel adapter and press it into the widener. It's a really good fit, so it has to be absolutely straight to go in, otherwise the corners get hung up. Press it all the way down and that's the wheel ready to mount to the axle. The wheel just fits over the axle as you'd expect, then we use a nice new M4 wheel nut to hold it on. Now I'm also going to use an M4 washer, so there's something hard for the nut to tighten up against. You'll get away without, of course. The washer will just make sure that the wideners last a few more fittings before the plastic starts to wear under the nut. Now I sized these wideners up before the chassis arrived, so I had a good guess on how much width to add. I looked at the pictures and eyed it up. Turns out I was close, but a little bit too close. At full lock there's still a bit of rub which really won't do. So here we have some slightly wider wideners. It's only a few millimeters, but it'll make the difference. I'm not going to repeat the process. Suffice to say, all we do is undo the 5 screws and swap the wideners and hex over. It only took a few minutes, and now, after refitting the wheel, we have some clearance. There's not a vast amount, but I wanted to keep it as tight as I could. Now we just need to do the other 3, and we've got ourselves a wide clod on a race chassis. Now if you're using this video as a guide for the wideners, congrats, you're done. Now try and break them and give me some feedback on Thingiverse. Otherwise, in this video we're going to quickly fit an old body to the truck so it's ready for the next video where we're going to tackle the electronics. Now I've had a look through an old box of bodies and I think this Proline Silverado Emax body is going to be the best fit. It's already got at least 3 sets of body mounting holes, so another's really not going to hurt, and the wheelbase looks somewhere near. We'll be prepping a proper body for this chassis in the future, so this will just be a quickie. The chassis uses side-mounted body posts that are 100mm apart. So all we need to do is make a couple of holes on each side, just a tad over 8mm in diameter and 100mm apart. As a bit of a prototype, I've printed up these plates to go over the posts. The plan is to use similar plates but attach them to the body so there's a bit more strength than just the thin plastic. Hopefully it'll avoid any rips in the plastic after rollovers, and we'll see them in their final form in a couple of weeks. With the body back on, we can install some body clips and that's the truck rolling, now with some tyre clearance and a body. And I might be a little bit biased, but I think this looks expletive awesome. I really can't wait to get it running under its own steam. Right, that's it for this week then. Next time it's electronics and probably a bit of a test run, so that should be fun. As always then, thanks for watching, like if you liked, subscribe if you haven't, and leave a message if there's something on your mind. Bye guys!